Most appraisers and most investors, when they're looking at an investment property, they're figuring the highest and best uses as an investment. And the most common way that most investors will first analyze an investment property is to use cap rate. Welcome to my classroom. I'm Chris Collette, the real estate professor. And today I'm going to be Chris Collette, the real estate investor. So I want to talk to you today about how we sort of first start to look at investment properties, how we value them, and probably the most common way of analyzing an investment property. That is to figure out the property's cap rate or capitalization rate. So if you've ever went out and decided to get your real estate license, probably one of the first things that they would teach you in your classes is how to figure out the highest and best use for the value of a property. So in a single family home, we'd probably just look at all the comparable properties. What homes are just like this, and what did they sell for last week? That's probably what this one is worth if we wanted to sell it. Now, that is the sort of comparable market approach. Let's say it was a church, though. Churches don't exactly get bought and sold very frequently. So if you want to figure out what a church is worth, you'd probably have to figure out what it would take to actually rebuild it. So let's say we just tore the whole thing down. What would it take to rebuild using the original materials, using 200-year-old granite? Granite, millions of years old, but you got to find the right kind of granite in the right places to match what was originally there. So it's going to be really expensive because you can't exactly find 3 comparable churches in the same town that sold this week. For an investment property, though, we're not going to use either of those methods. Most appraisers and most investors, when they're looking at an investment property, they're figuring the highest and best uses as an investment. And the most common way that most investors will first analyze an investment property is to use cap rate. So I want to simplify it for a second. Let's pretend that you were to buy a stock. Pick your favorite company. Imagine their stock was selling for $100. Let's pretend, though, that it's a bond instead. A bond usually is one that you buy and it pays you a certain amount of money every year. So bond is, say, $100. And let's say every year it gives you $6 back as dividends or $6 in return. So $6 for a $100 bond is going to give you a 6% return per year. That's a 6% cap rate. So imagine if you bought a property for $300,000. That $300,000 property, let's say it's a 3-family and you rent them all out and every month you're getting $2,000 a month in rent. Well, you take that $2,000 a month of rent and you multiply it by 12 months, you're actually going to make $24,000 per year. The problem is that's before expenses. So you're not actually going to put $24,000 in your pocket. Instead, you're going to have to use some of that money to pay for the expenses. That's sort of like how you needed the $100 at first to buy the bond. The difference is a bond doesn't need ongoing money reinvested like a house does. So your expenses for a home are going to be things like sewer, water, because you as a landlord are going to be paying for these things. There's going to be some ongoing maintenance. Say once a year you plan to change out the washers and dryers in each unit because maybe they have a lot of bedrooms and you know they'll go through them quickly. Maybe every year when you turn a tenant over, you plan to repaint the living rooms because those get the most wear and tear. This is sort of ongoing operating maintenance. Maybe you pay a guy $50 a month to come mow the lawn because you're too busy managing all your other investment properties to come do it yourself. So all of these are operating expenses. Note, by the way, that I didn't include renovation costs. These are really our capital expenditures. That's really a cost to get the property up and running, not an ongoing cost. You don't renovate it every year, for example. Notice also, by the way, that I didn't include the finance charges. So when you're looking at a property and analyzing its cap rate, we don't want to include the cost of financing. That's your monthly mortgage payment, plus the principal and interest. We do want to include the taxes, but we don't want to include mortgage insurance. And the reason is that those numbers aren't factored in. How good of an investment a certain property is only based on that property, not how good of a loan you can personally get, not how much you personally put down, because that's going to change buyer to buyer. To use that bond as an example one more time, it's $100, but we never talked about how you bought it. What if you borrowed $95 from a friend and only put in $5 of your own money? Suddenly that bond becomes fantastic as an investment because you're not even using your own money. So with this property, we're making $24,000 a year. We bought it for $300,000. And let's say that it's, $500 a month in operating expenses. So we're going to have $6,000 per year in expenses. $24,000 minus the $6,000 in expenses gives us $18,000 of net operating income. That $18,000 in a fraction with $300,000 underneath is going to give us a 6% capitalization rate. Now, the follow-up question should be, is 6% even good? Well, that depends. If you're buying in a place like Boston, Cambridge, Somerville, frankly, 6% is fantastic. People are buying in some of those markets for 1 or 2 or 3% cap rates because they know they're going to make up for it on the back end with higher appreciation. And you can just raise the rent so fast in those cities year over year, maybe not right now, but at least soon you'll be able to keep raising those rents year over year, that your cap rate will go right back up to where it was before you bought it. But if you're buying out in some other cities and towns that are great investment spaces like Worcester right now, Worcester's probably the hottest real estate market in all of New England. If you get a 6% cap rate in Worcester, you probably could have done better. We're seeing properties that sell for 9, 10, 11, 12, 13% cap rates right now. So if you have any questions about investing, cap rate is an important factor to use, but it's not the whole one. Stay tuned for my investor series to see more calculations, more data, and more on how to analyze an investment property. I'm Chris Collette, the real estate professor, and if you're thinking about buying, selling, or investing in Mass or New Hampshire, give me a call, give my team a call. Thanks for joining.